All right. Man, I'm sick of listening to myself. You guys must really be sick of listening to me. Good Lord. I mean, it's fun, but like after a while. But the idea is they just like keep coming, you know? Ooh. What's going on, folks? My name is Steve Holmes. We're streaming live from Los Angeles. Cheers. How's everyone's weekend? This is the hurricane stream. We're supposed to get a hurricane in Los Angeles today for the first time since like the 30s. It's bananas. Also, it's my cousin's birthday today, who I still need to call. So happy birthday, cousin. I'm a bad cousin for not calling. Ugh. Anyway, what is up? Thanks for hanging out. We're playing drums. We're talking about drums. We're improvising drums. I didn't stream last week, but I did a video. I put up a video for the first time in ages because that song had been in my head forever. Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You. She sings it beautifully. It's a Prince song. I don't know if everyone knows that. I went down the Sinead rabbit hole and watched a bunch of interviews with her and stuff because she recently passed away. And there's an interview with her where she talks about like the one time she met Prince and he wanted like to be her mentor and she didn't want to, and they ended up like fighting, and like it was crazy. People are crazy. Anyway, it was a fun tune. And sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes, you know, you get a song in your head it just won't go away. And whenever there's music in my head, most of the time I'm like drumming along with it, like in my head. I'm like literally like just what you saw me, like I'm just blowing over it, just grooving to it, whatever, you know. And so it's odd when you're doing that in your head for so long and then, you know, you actually do it in reality. And like, you know, I feel like, you know, that's sometimes what I need to do in order to get the song out, you know. So we'll see. Anyway, let's see what folks are saying online. We're going to check out the comments here. We're streaming to YouTube. We're streaming to Facebook. We might be streaming to Twitch and Kick and Twitter. I don't know. But let's see. Bobby Vincent, about 20 minutes ago, was the first comment. Bobby Vincent, longtime YouTube follower, says hi all. Hello, Bobby. Thanks for hanging out. Hey, we had a new camera angle today. It was time. You know, sometimes it's time. And we always do like to the back and to the side, and the colors on this are all messed. It's all like orange, and I don't even know why I have my TV on that I shouldn't have that on. Anyways, I wanted to do like a front thing, but it's still important to me that like you can see my hands, and because, you know, I mean, as much as this is like entertainment, like I want people to, you know, folks that are interested in learning, I want them to be able to. So it's important to me that, you know, you see my hands and kind of what's going on here. But not really good for like instructional stuff. If I'm like, here's this cool lick, like let me show it to you. Like this is not a good angle for that. But I wanted to try like a front thing. So here we are. Here we are with a front thing. But the side cam is where it's at. Those that know, side cam folks, you guys know. You know. Ryan Cox says, such a gorgeous set of drums. Thank you very much. My drums are Yamaha PHX for those that don't know. Love my Yamaha drums. Stephen Turner says, hi, Steve. Great to see you again. Stephen Turner on YouTube. Great to see you as well. Thanks for hanging out. Bobby Vincent likes the new camera angle. Let's see. Jay Faceless says, hi, Steve. I would like to know your approach for playing Georgie Porgy from Toto. Oh, man. I would have to like... I'm not intimately familiar with that song. I haven't like listened to it enough and dug into the drumming enough to like speak with authority on that. But I'm sure like my approach would be no better than Jeff's, you know. Paul Peterson says, hi, Steve. Finally get to see you live. Yes, here we are. We're streaming live. I was going to start to stream on Sundays maybe, but because more folks are just online on Sunday, actually, statistically speaking. But, you know, there might be a big storm here tomorrow, so I wanted to just kind of be available for that. Or maybe we'll stream tomorrow, too. You know what I've always wanted to do as well? Like do like a late night stream. Like low light, black and white. Turn off the snare springs, do like my Tony Williams melodic wannabe stuff. Late at night, melodic. Oh man, that would be funny. Let's see, Frisco Pisco on YouTube says, amazing drumming, Steve. Thank you so much. Brian Cox says, sounds like Steve's feeling it today. Tasty sounds coming out. Thank you. Stephen Turner says, haha, someone's been doing a lot of practice. Some new stuff going on there. Cool. Thanks for the compliment, Stephen. I actually have not been playing that much. Like the last time I played was last weekend when I did that Nothing Compares to You video. I haven't touched the drums all week. And so that's part of the reason why we do this, you know, keep it honest, keep the rust off, try to come up with new ideas and, you know, push myself to outside of the comfort zone kind of thing. So Ryan Cox, tasty quintuplet vocabulary. Yes, a lot of 5/2 stuff happening on that opening improv thing. And some of it was, you know, on the grid and some of it not so much, but you know, someone said I might have knocked my mic off. Which mic? Maybe the bass drum. I think it's okay actually. Anyway, yeah, I love the 5/2 stuff. You know, once you internalize like a rate, a subdivision, then you can kind of put it on the kid and try to keep it on the grid and come up with hopefully musical ideas. And 5/2 is one of my favorite things for that kind of thing. Let's see, Alan SJ5 says, hello, Steve. Damn, that's nice. Thank you. MM804 on YouTube with the $5 donation. MM804, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Anyone else interested in donating, you can do that on YouTube or steveholmes@gmail.com on your PayPal of choice, or, you know, whatever. Just click like, click thumbs up, click whatever you want, or don't click anything. Let's see. Great Hand says, Alan, thank you so much. On Twitch, Kairu, KYUBYPRO. Hey, someone from Twitch is here. Awesome. I hardly ever get Twitch viewers. Like, I'm just blasting to all these services, and mostly it's YouTube and a little bit of Facebook. Racer X says, yo, Holmes, you just keep advancing. I don't know if I agree with that, but thank you. And that's what it's about, right? Just pushing yourself, try to get better, try to come up with new ideas, try to get more comfortable, you know, because if you're getting comfortable, that means that you're getting better at it, you know. But at that point, you know, you don't want to get complacent in the comfort. You want to then push yourself out and play stuff that's not comfortable. There was one like one kind of groove sticking in there that kept tripping me up. And I sat on it for a while, you know, on the ride when I was like, boot, step, boot, like something like that. And every time I arrived at it, like there was I kind of stumbled a little bit. It never felt comfortable. And so I did the thing, you know, like you just play it over and over and just, you know, sometimes you got to like, don't even play it, you know, like the way you want to, like just take notes away and just try to figure out like, okay, what is rhythmically happening, you know, like just get that and like see if you can, you know, go back to playing it a basic way and then start to introduce like, you know, okay, now play it against the ride, plus split it up between my hands and my feet, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's a good way to practice stuff, you know, like if there's a coordination issue or an independence issue, or if you're not understanding the phrase, like step 1, like understand the phrase. Step 2, like just play it hand to hand rhythmically. Make sure you understand what's happening rhythmically. And then, you know, if it's a groove thing, see if you can at least do it between the kick and snare before you even introduce, you know, hi-hat and ride. And then maybe, okay, hi-hat and ride, like quarter note only. And then, okay, I can do that. And okay, so now 8th notes and, you know, iron out those kinks of the stiffness, of the newness stiffness thing. And then just get it relaxed and now get it to different tempos. And like, that's the process. Let's see, Alan. Let's see, Racer X, please break down your practice routine with the books you used back in the day. Time frames before moving from types of exercises. Call you cuz, yo. Says Racer X. All right, maybe we'll talk about old practice routines. Let's see, Golden Monkey says, hello, Steve. Great playing as usual. Cool Bruce, thank you. Alan says, yes, Sinead did that sound beautiful. Chris Cornell, too. Yeah, I heard about that, actually. I need to check that out. Is the PHX kit too heavy to cart around? No. It's not too heavy to cart around, and they're the best drummings. Well, some of the best drumming sounding drums in the world, and so if they're a little bit heavier, like it's totally worth it, man. These drums are just, they sing and they almost tune themselves. It's amazing. The Yamaha PHX drums, it's ridiculous. Stephen Turner says, "Can you explain your 5/2 idea?" Sure. We've talked about that a lot on here, but it's worth going into. Let's see. I'm still practiced with your double stroke video lesson. Thanks for sharing. Yes, says Nestor on YouTube. Folks that have not checked out my YouTube channel, there's tons of instructional content on there. We're trying to get the subscriber rate up. We just passed 24,000, which for me is a lot, but compared to a lot of other, folks, it's not so much. But hey, it's not a race. It's not a contest. For me, it's actually kind of about the quality of the content, Just keep posting stuff, play the long game. If folks like it, they'll check it out. Simple as that, really. But yes, I have like a three-part video series on my channel called, The Secrets to Double Stroke Roll Phrasing or something. It's a few years old now, but still pretty useful in terms of applying doubles over triplets, over 16th notes, and doubling them and putting accents like whatever you want. Hit up my channel. You'll see it. There's a playlist called Instructional Videos, and all the streams are on there. Oh my God, Racer X says, "I meant to say call your cuz, yo. It's his birthday." Yes, you're right. Maybe we'll call him. I want to call him on the stream, but I don't know if that's cool. He might not like that. He probably would, actually. Anyway, so someone asked about like the, break down your practice routine with the books you used back in the day. Man, I haven't used a book in a long time. I want to get the Dave DiCenzo book, the new Dave DiCenzo book. And I was thinking about working out of that, like on the stream. And I asked him about that. And he said he was going to email me. And then he said he emailed me and I never got it. And then he said he re-emailed me. And we're just crossing wires, basically. But it would be cool to do that. And if there's some kind of publishing or copyright thing where like I can't show the book, but I can play what's in the, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Worst case scenario is like I can memorize a couple licks and like just not show the book at all and just play them, like there's got to be a way to do it. But I mean, honestly, like I worked out of the when I studied privately in New Jersey with my drum teacher at the time. This is like 1988, 89, and 90. My teacher was a guy named Ray Nunzi, who's still in that area teaching. He was a fantastic teacher, and I was really lucky because I was still in high school, and we got into the jazz independence thing, and so I was lucky to get a head start on that stuff before I moved to LA. And I was also in marching band a lot and had a head start on like clean doubles and stuff, but I've talked about that a lot. I won't go into it. But when I did the jazz independent stuff, I just did the normal thing. I did like Ted Reed syncopation, play the figures, with the left hand against the swing pattern, and then split up the notes, like eighth note on the snare, quarter note on the kick against the swing pattern, 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, maybe 4 on the floor. Try it both ways, with and without. So I did that. I did the Jim Chapin book, Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer, which is also basically demonstrating basic swing. But it goes into like some 16th note phrasing a little bit on the left hand against the swing pattern and stuff, which is pretty cool. So I remember working on those books. And then I went to, I went to Musicians Institute in 93, 94, Percussion Institute of Technology, and worked out a lot of books there. Even in the odds, like Ralph Humphrey, spent some time using that book just to kind of get familiar with the concept of, taking, odd groupings of notes and breaking them up into groups of 2 and 3, which is a good approach. It's not the only approach, but it's a good approach. And so if you're in, 10-8 or 5-8, that means there's 10 16th notes, and you can break those up into groups of 2 and 3, or 3 and 2, which is the whole point of the book. It goes through the various combinations, and the goal of that stuff is to kind of ingest the concept and then practice it and be able to like come up with musical phrases based on the concept. That's really the process there. What other books did I study out of? There was the Joe Picaro drum set method, I think it was called. There was a class for that, but I kind of had a lot of that stuff happening already because it's a great book about applying rudiments to the drum set, like taking a snare drum rudiment and turning it into like a cool lick. And I was kind of doing that already, and so I didn't spend a lot of time in that book. But it is a great book for that concept. It was a thick book, spiral bound. It was great, beautiful book. And studying with Joe Poe was obviously amazing. I mean, the guy's a living legend, and I was fortunate that him and both him and Ralph Humphrey were both at the school I was there. We recently lost Ralph, but it was, you know, a lot of fun memories just sitting in the room with those guys. You know, a lot of those teachers were great, you know, are great, you know. There was this guy, Gary Garbatini, who I've mentioned before. He showed me a lot, not so much out of books, but he was into the same style of drumming that I was and am into, you know, and so he had a lot of that stuff happening, and so he really like broke down the dam for me on a couple of things. He actually taught me the bluzda and a couple other licks, and it was funny because we had these things called open counseling with teachers, which is just like a half hour or an hour of just a teacher in a small room. It was very informal, and each teacher could just do whatever they wanted. It wasn't a class. It was just more of a like just open counseling, it was called. And different teachers would handle it different, but Gary would just come in and he'd be like, does anyone want to talk about anything? No? Okay. And then he would just blow. And then I would just tap him on the shoulder. Oh, what was that? Do that again, you know? And oh, this thing, you know, like whatever. You would just play this crazy stuff. And so I learned a lot from that. Let's see. I remember Joe Brancato was there. Amazing brush player, great jazz player, but like just some of the most even brush playing I've ever heard in my life from Joe Brancato. What was his name? Chuck Flores. Chuck Flores, another great big band, straight ahead jazz drummer. I'm sorry, I don't know if he's with us still, but I remember him being great. But the question was like, hey, what books did you study like in, you know, back in the day? And you know, those were the books that I can recall. What other books? They just had like a printed curriculum too at the school. I think I still have it. But I tried to get my reading together while I was there, and I wanted to get like my Latin and straight ahead and stuff. Just, you know, just living it. You know, that's why I went there. Just practicing all day, going to class, shedding at night. You know, playing Street Fighter back in the apartment back in the day. Good times. Video games and drums, folks. I'm fortunate to still be involved in that stuff. Let's see, can you explain your 5/2 idea? Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Let's see, what is the hardest transition for you from one type of subdivision to another, says Alan. For example, 16th notes to 32nd notes, or to quintuplets, etc. What are some things you don't feel as natural for you? Well, there's no particular transition that is challenging. I think the whole concept of changing subdivisions is challenging depending on the tempo, really. Because if you're like that tempo we just did at the click at the beginning of the stream was 111, and I could barely pull out 30-second notes at that tempo, and I'd lean on like paradiddle phrasing over 30 seconds. So that's kind of my secret weapon with that. It's very common, but it's like you know, that's how I like to do it. Anyway, so it's not so much like, oh, it's awkward going from this subdivision. It's like it's just doing it all on the grid in time in a way that feels good. You know, sometimes staying in time is a challenge. You know, like if you're playing busy, and then all of a sudden you play really spacey, and then you come out on one, you may not nail one because of that sudden introduction of space. You know, because if you're like, you know, it's like, whoa, that might be challenging to come out on time because you're going from like a dense amount of notes to like spacey notes, and so now you have to make sure that the notes are on the grid, but you're accounting for the right amount of space, which is actually the key to good time. It's not the notes you play, it's the space between the notes, which I think is super interesting, actually. So yeah, I mean, reread the question. Sorry, hardest transition, one type of subdivision to another. I mean, again, like you just want to get familiar with all of the subdivisions so that you can switch to all of them, you know, and just doing it in time. So there's no, I mean, sorry to repeat the answer, but there's no particular like, oh, 8th note triplets to 16th note. There's no particular combination that's particularly challenging. The whole thing is challenging to do in time. So That's the answer. Not the only way. It broke into 2 and 3. What is another way to do odd meter? Oh, another way to do odd meter. Well, really, like, I get to a point where that's an interesting question, actually. Another way to do odd meter other than 2s and 3s. There is a process that I kind of went through that translates existing 4/4 vocabulary to odd meter, right? So if you have a bar of 4/4, and you're like boom stats to don't bat, right? And you're like, okay, well now we're in 7. So what is the 7/8, like 7/8 notes instead of, like, there's 8/8 notes in a bar of 4/4, right? So you take away 1/8 note, you're now in 7/8, right? So, you turn on a click and you're like, okay, you kind of get, take that bar of 4/4 and translate it to 7. So instead of boom, ba, sh, ba, boom, boom, ba, it's boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, sh, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, sh, ba, da, da, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom, chicka, da, chicka, dun, dun, got, going, right? That process, but in order to do that, you kind of have to have that 7 internal clock. And the way you do that is you just turn on the click, or turn on a loop, or turn on music, or turn on something that's in 7, and catch the wave, man. Like, get on the server and just catch the wave so that you're in the 7 time. You don't even have to play. Just get yourself there mentally, to the point where, like, you feel comfortable, like, okay, I can hit a thing and not lose 1, or just hit 1, like, whatever you got to do to, like, get on board 7. The best way to is just listening, and written out exercises. Obviously, it's going to help. I'm not saying that one thing is better than another. I'm simply saying, like, this is one way of many that works. And so once I got used to how 7 felt, I could just kind of improvise on 7 the same way I could improvise in 4. And it's the same stuff. It's not like, oh, it's time to play my 7 stuff. No, it's all the same stuff. Stuff I play in 7 is the same stuff I play in 4. I'm just playing it in 7. So that's kind of valuable, because if you have an existing vocabulary, then you can, apply it all to 7/8, Ray Audette says, hey, Steve, what's up, Ray, on Facebook? How are you, sir? Yeah, I turned on the click in 7/8. This is while I was at MI, actually, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell you again. It's just like, my main concern with playing in odd meter was, like, man, 1 just feels so weird. The way it comes, like, in an unorthodox way. And so I'd program a drum machine. I'd put a ton of stuff on 1, a huge emphasis on 1. I'd have, like, bass drums and claps and cymbals and cowbells. So my bass, the click would be like, ding, 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 right? That was my 7 click. And maybe it wasn't such a good thing, because, like, I have a big emphasis on 1 because I was so scared of losing it, But it helped. It really helped, You just start simple, Don't take any chances, If you're trying to get used to playing in an odd meter, And again, this is not the only way. Someone asked specifically, they're like, "What's another way other than, like, breaking things into 2 and 3?" So it's just like, turn on the click and just din 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 din. You want to be able to sing, improvise, like, I kind of want to play in 7 now because someone asked about it. Do we have a click in 7? I can try to come up with a click in 7 if you'll bear with me. 2, 3, 4. Oh, jeez. Don't want that. How about this? All right. I'm using an old iPhone for my metronome. Okay, 7/8. Here you go. Let's get rid of this bar. Edit, or actually, delete this bar, and now we have a bar 7/8. All right, way too slow. We're gonna get rid of some of those clicks too. Don't worry. Okay. We're editing to get rid of some of those. All right. You know that there's that Weckel approach too. Dave Weckel talks about his approach to odd meter, which is, you know, singing, you know, the quarter notes up till, you know, you get to the end of the bar, and then you sing the and, you know, like 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1. That was his old approach anyway. I don't know if he still does that. Dun, 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 dun. All right, that's too many notes. Okay. Okay, that's in 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. All right. So already I'm like, just 1, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1. All right. Let's play in 7 a little bit. Oh man, the scene switch is still on. Has it been switching this whole time? No. So it kind of went a little out of time there a couple times, you know, but you get the point. You know, it's just the ability to improvise in the odd meter the same way that you do in 4. And it is helpful to know, like, there are some like constants, some just kind of rules, if you will, or just some characteristics to 7, right? So there's an odd amount of eighth notes per bar. So that means if you play a quarter note, which consists of 2 eighth notes, then the quarter note is going to alternate between being on the downbeat and on the upbeat every other bar. So if you're like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 6, 1. Right, it's the Vinny thing from he does it a lot with Sting, right? So what I mean by that is, like, you know, you play quarter note throughout, and, you know, it alternates upbeats and downbeats every bar. This is what I mean. So, you know, that applies to any odd meter. You play in 5, it's the same thing. It's 1, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, you know. The quarter note falls on the odd numbers, and then it falls on the even numbers, actually, which is kind of neat. You know, that 2-3 grouping thing, you know, that's pretty common. You know, if you see a common way to break up, like, you know, groups of 7, right? It's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, right? 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, which is 4, and then 3, which is 7, right? So musically, it sounds like this, you know, chaka, 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 right? It's like, I kind of think of it as a group of 3. 1, 2, 3, chaka, 1, 2, 3, right? So any of those things, so you do the same thing with 5, right? Like 2 and 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. But here's the cool part. Is there's like a paradiddle thing you can do to accent those groups over 30-second note paradiddles pretty easily. And I did that, like, in the 7 thing. You know, let me figure out what that sticking is, and then I will share it. Okay, so a 2 is a paradiddle. Right-handed paradiddle or left-handed paradiddle. Like, if you just keep them going, it's like paradiddle, paradiddle. And then the 3 is a paradiddle diddle, right? Sorry. Yeah, paradiddle diddle. So if you take a group of, like, you know, 2, 3, and you apply that to this paradiddle thing, it sounds like this. And then I'll do it to 7s too. This is a great way to come up with, like, you know, like these kind of fast sounding licks in odd meter. And they work in 4/4 too, which is the cool thing. Sorry, it's paradiddle, paradiddle, diddle, right? But the sticking reverses every time. So it starts with the right, and then it starts with the left. It's backwards sticking, like it alternates. It's a right-handed lead and then a left-handed lead, right? So the 5-1, I demonstrated it in 4. I played in 4-4, and then I played a 4-4 fill that started with like those groups of 5, using paradiddles, right, as 30 seconds. And then in the 7 example, I actually played in 7-8, just to clarify. And then did the same example, you know, ba 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 da ja ja. And in the 7 one, I noticed like the paradiddle sticking didn't reverse; it was always on the right. Paradiddle, 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 diddle brings you back to the right. Paradiddle, 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 diddle, paradiddle, paradiddle. So and all this stuff like I'm just thinking like at the end of the day, like it's just musical phrases. Like that's the finish line. You know, you want to learn the letters, the words, sentences, paragraphs, so that you can tell stories. I'm a big believer in that. You just got to practice and start to hear those phrases in your mental like vocabulary, really, you know. And again, the cool stuff is this stuff applies to those. It's, you know, the 7 stuff doesn't apply just to 7-8. You know, it applies to 4-4 too, just like I did with the 5s. You know, like I took that 5-note grouping and I played it in 4, so it all applies to everything if you do your homework. That's kind of the cool thing, right? So, yeah, backing up. We're backing up, reading the chat. Reading the chat. Sorry for that. Okay, so let's see. Peter Erskine is another great jazz drummer and teacher, and he's still with us. He's very versatile, says Alan on YouTube. Yes, I'm a big fan of Erskine. I've actually met him a few times. Him and I have, crossed paths a couple of times. Like, he used to post a lot on my drum forum, houseofdrumming.com, and him and I met and chatted about that a little bit. And then he actually was pivotal in getting in touch with Yamaha and kind of, introducing me to Yamaha like back in the day. And I'm still, I have a relationship with Yamaha because of that, although Peter's not with them anymore. He's now with Tama, I believe. It's funny, I was watching an Erskine clip today. He's got a great home studio, man. He's got like all these cameras and stuff, and he switches cameras, and he's got a great setup. And there's a lot of interviews with him, and he's just such an entertaining storyteller, and he's just been playing for so long that he has such great stories. I just watched the story of Erskine talking about doing a session for Rod Stewart, and it was like a jazz standard session, that Rod wanted to do, and they were doing this ballad, and he brought out his brushes, and he's playing like a ballad, he's playing ballad time with brushes, and this producer asked him to like at the beginning of every bar, like put a bass drum. Actually, it was at the end of the bar. It was like zzzz, boom, zzzz, boom, and he was like, okay. He just did it, and then Rod Stewart shows up, and they play it, and Rod's like, what the heck is this drummer doing? Oh man! And the producer was like, just go back to doing what you were doing before. I love stories like that. Peter Erskine is such a great drummer. I mean, come on. Word of Mouth Big Band, the Jocko years, Weather Report, his solo stuff, Steely Dan. I took a lesson with Peter at his house in Santa Monica, like in the early 2000s. And man, and we're from the same area. He's from Linwood, New Jersey, and I'm from Summers Point, New Jersey. Those cities are right next to each other. South Jersey, Gen X, South Jersey. I mean, I'm Gen X. I don't know that he is. Anyways, yeah. And we bought his videos too back in the day in Jersey, like Everything is Timekeeping, the DCI stuff. Bought that, watched the trio with John Abercrombie and Mark Johnson, and then like he came to, while I was there at Musicians Institute, he came and did a thing with Mark Johnson, and I don't know who was playing guitar. I forget. It may have been John Abercrombie. I'm not sure. Anyways, we were yelling like Samurai Hee-Haw, because that was the song we wanted him to play. Which has this, I was just thinking about it would be cool to blow over this riff. It was like this acoustic bass, like riff in 3. It was like bash, 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 Samurai Hee-Haw, great tune. Would love to like loop that riff and just blow over it. We were yelling it, like we're students. We're like Samurai, and I remember him kind of begrudgingly being like, "Oh, okay, fine," and they played it, and he just like tore it to bits. Kind of like, here you go. Here's your Samurai Hee-Haw, kid. That was great, man. I gave him, it's all coming back to me now. I went to Catalina Bar and Grill, the old one on Cahuenga Boulevard. I saw him there. And I gave him a Phillies hat because the Phillies were in the World Series that year. They lost. I'm not really a baseball fan these days, but then I was. This is like 93 when I first moved. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. Still reading some older comments here. Hey, Steve, says Ray. We talked to Ray. Robert Dorr on YouTube says, Steve, hello from London. In terms of grasping the building blocks such as Alan Dawson's rudimental ritual, how does one make a breakthrough? Well, you know, I actually haven't checked out Alan's books, but I understand that, you know, a lot of his stuff is very similar to the stuff that I like, you know, in terms of like double stroke roll, the concept of accenting whatever you want and filling everything with doubles. And so I didn't work with Alan's book, so I can't speak to it in terms of, you know, whatever, how to get a breakthrough, like you say. But, I mean, at the risk of sounding however this is going to sound, I mean, really that 3-part video series on my channel called, you know, like, you know, the secret to double stroke roll phrasing or whatever it's called, like that is exactly like how I did that. And that is exactly how I would suggest one practices that, you know, it's just like 8th note triplets or 16th notes and cover every combination of accent and double everything else. And then put those accents together into phrases and then double everything else and then be able to improvise with those accented phrases and double everything else. That's it. You know? I mean, if someone worked on that like a lot, like an hour every day, you could have that down like in a week, 2 weeks. You know, that's the beauty of drumming, man. You spend 10 minutes doing the same thing uninterrupted and you're gonna get better at it. The key is like uninterrupted, you know? So yeah, lots of videos on my channel about that stuff. Let's see, a really great song for 7/4 is the main riff to Soundgarden's Outshined, says Alan. We'll take your word for it. Let's see, the splash stack is clearly a different alloy. This thing, yeah, this is a hi-hat cymbal with a trash former on top and my shaky shells, we call them. Shaky shells. Let's see, Ray says also playing 7 or whatever, the meter is permutate accent and move it around to feel the meter in different places. Yeah, lots of possibilities with that stuff. Let's see, Yoda. You see Yoda. Yeah, we're talking about Erskine and someone called him Yoda. I suppose that's true. Let's see, 7/4 shuffle. Hell yes, Phil Collins would do that sometimes. Let's see, Boost Moon. Let's see, also, using the keyboard synth part that comes in on the second verse of Tom Sawyer, continuing into the guitar solo in 7/8. I believe Tom Sawyer is in 7. Parts of it are. It's funny, I know that song like the back of my hand, but I'm actually not. Because I just memorized that stuff when I was a kid. I didn't like count it out. I just have all that Rush stuff memorized. And later on I went back and I was like, oh, okay, Free Will is in 6 and 7. You know, like that's kind of cool, but I almost didn't care. I was just like, you know, I just had that stuff memorized. Let's see. Oh, there's a little echo happening. Oh, man. Sorry. Did I have the talkie mic on earlier when I was playing? I think I did, but I turned it off. Let's see. Jackal stories are good. Braden says, LOL, this is hilarious. Oh, man. Mr. Holmes, some advice to improve side reading. Well, first of all, it's sight reading. Says Peter Troshnikov. Peter. Sight reading. Some advice to improve sight reading. I mean, I certainly don't have any advice that is unorthodox. I mean, hopefully the key to sight reading, the key to reading is developing the mental process of associating visuals with music. As obvious as that might sound, but that's what it is. Like as soon as you see a musical notation, you want to hear it. You want to hear what it is. And as a drummer, like, you know, if you don't want to get into the, you know, the melody and harmony aspect of it, that's fine. But you definitely got to be an expert in reading rhythms. And it's not uncommon at all for drummers to just be given bass sheets or lead sheets or piano sheets or whatever, and use that as kind of a, you know, tent pole guide, if you will. And so even then, you want to be able to at least sing, you know, rhythmically what's going on a piano chart. and just, I mean, there's no shortcut other than just spending the time, you know. Read along with music, like take a chart that you can, you know, listen to the music of and just read along and just make that associate. Oh, okay, this is that, and oh, okay, this is what that looks like. And you know, there's more than one way to write the same like phrase. It's another thing you got to get used to, especially with drums, because we don't have like sustain on our instrument really. And so, you know, in other instruments that do have that, you'll see a lot of like tied notes and you know, that kind of thing, and translating that to drum set language is a thing. But you just got to get familiar with you know, following the form of a tune when you're reading it down, like, you know, following the roadmap they call it, you know, understanding, you know, where the chart goes in terms of like repeats, and then like we get to the end and you get to the coda and you go back to whatever the beginning or the DC, and then like you play it to the, you know, the other, whatever. Like you just got to know all that stuff, and there's just no shortcut other just doing it. But the good news is that stuff doesn't get updated. Like once you know it, you know it. If you spend like a month of your life, you're like, hey, that's it. This month we're focusing on reading, and that's it. You just spend a month at it, you get good at it, and that's it. You don't have to work at it again, because actually reading and playing, like real playing, is also practice. You know, get into the obscure stuff. Spend some time in the really obscure, like look at the Zappa stuff. You know, check out some of the, like, look at the Black Page, you know, and follow. There's a great, I forget what it is now, but there's a great video on YouTube of some young kid. He was like, all right, I'm going to just learn the Black Page. And he did the whole process. He spent weeks practicing it, and he walked you through the whole thing. Here's the notation. Here's the tricky parts, you know, like you just got to get to that point where your brain just sees the thing as like, oh, okay, I see what this is. And then your body's like, yes, it's this, you know. But it's not just like reading drum music. I mean, like seeing a chart and like, you know, being able to understand what's happening musically, like with everything, with every instrument, that kind of thing. It's really a cool process. And I thought about, you know, like getting some play alongs with some charts and doing it on here and stuff. And I mean, if I was streaming more often, if I was streaming all the time, I would be doing more of that stuff. But this is kind of like an outlet for me as much as it is just, you know, streaming for folks out there. And so I don't want it to get to, it's like, oh, it's where it's like work or something I have to worry about. Like, oh, you know, I have to get the charts ready for the stream on Tuesday. Like I don't want it to get to that point, you know, so that's why it hasn't. So yeah, but there's lots of play along stuff. I mean, Weckel's got tons of packages. I mean, go to Weckel's site and just, he has all these packages you can download without, you know, all these cool tunes, you know, or even if you don't think they're cool, they're definitely challenging, and of all different styles, you know, and you can get them without drums, with all these instruments. They come with charts. Like, just, you know, buy a tune you've never heard, buy the package, buy the chart, and, you know, spend some time looking at the chart before you even listen to the music. Like, get familiar with the chart, the roadmap, the form of the tune, try to read it down, try to understand what's happening, so that you develop a mental picture of what you think the tune is. And then listen to it and follow along and see how close you were. You know, you want to get to the point where it's like, yeah, this is pretty much what I thought it would be, you know. Orchestrations aside, because it's like, if, you know, it's a keyboard or something, it could be any number of sounds, whatever. But the point remains, you know. So those are my thoughts on reading. I don't do a whole lot these days, but I did spend a lot of time learning it. And it is also, it's also priceless for just communicating quickly, like rhythmic ideas from one person to the other. That's the other benefit of reading. It's like if you just quickly need to, like, hey dude, what's that thing? Oh, okay, it's 16 note triplets in groups of 2, but it starts with a group of 3, which offsets the whole thing, and like just write it out really quick, and you hand it to a person like, oh, okay, I get it now. There's kind of no substitute for that, you know. Collecting Classics on YouTube says, came here because Facebook wasn't getting read. Really? Problems with the Facebook stream, you say? Let's take a look. Going to Facebook. Checking out my stream on Facebook. Here it is. Going to Facebook. Oh yeah, it's me. Checking out my stream on Facebook. Steve, here it is. Shut up. Stop talking. You really shouldn't be saying these
Going
things.
to Facebook.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Steve, don't
Checking out the stream on Facebook.
Why are you
Steve,
saying these?
Shut up. Stop talking.
No, that's
You
rude.
really
You shouldn't be saying these.
Going
You shouldn't
to
say that.
Facebook.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, don't.
Checking out the stream
Hey,
on Facebook.
okay,
Why are
that's
you
enough.
saying these?
Shut up. Wait, you're not
Stop
invited.
talking.
That's
You
rude.
really
Why are
shouldn't be
you?
saying
You
these.
shouldn't
Going
say
to
that.
Facebook.
Nope.
I don't know.
We're talking about
Oh,
drums. All right, everybody shut up.
on.
Okay, that's enough. Oh my god. Oh man, that was my Bo Burnham wannabe bit. That was funny actually. You guys familiar with Bo Burnham? He's a great comedian. He has a special on Netflix called Inside, where he does a lot of cool comedic little films during the pandemic, and that's a thing he does where he reacts to himself, and he's really a genius, and I'm a fan of his work. Anyway, we've been going for a little bit. I feel like maybe we should play a little bit more and call it. I kind of feel like playing 3, actually. Earlier today, I was kind of wanted to play in 3. 3, 4. Oh, here we go. That's too fast. I do not want to play that fast. I'm kind of thinking of like a dance, Let's see, 100 beats per minute. It's a little fast. All right. All right. That's enough of that. All right. Anyways, we played in 3. Didn't really get there. The 6, I always like doing like the 3/4 to 6/8 to 4/4 to 6/8 to 3. Like that thing is cool. We've talked about that a bunch. Maybe I'll explain it on the next stream. But anyway, that was fun. So check out the comments again really quick, and then we will call it. All right. Let's see. Thanks, Steve, says Ellen. Thank you for hanging out. Guys from the future will laugh about our latency problems. Yeah. Cheesy says, I finally got to find you live. Hello, Cheesy. What's up? Braden says, so clean. Thank you. Not too tight. Doesn't drop the sticks. Let's see. Some displacement. Virgil Holmes. Yeah, right. Says Steve Kingston. Sounds like a mic on the small time quit. Yeah. I whacked this thing a lot. I mean, I can hear it. I can actually hear it. Did it quit? No, it's good. Nope, I see strong signals. Let's see, what are your favorite YouTube drummers? Chris Dave, I love. I mean, he's not a YouTube drummer. Chris Dave has been playing professionally for a long time. I saw him with Kenny Garrett when he was very young, and now he's got his own band, and I love Chris Dave. And Justin Scott is probably my other. Justin Scott, J Scott drummer on Instagram. Justin Scott, he's amazing. I love his drumming. He switched to Meinl cymbals though. I just don't understand, man. His Zildjian cymbals sounded so much better. But also Alexander Marenko, check him out. Aleksandr. Alexander Marenko, that guy is amazing, amazing player, amazing drum sound. Love Alexander Marenko. So those are some folks that I really, really enjoy. That was for Josh Johnson. It's not a toy. Emmett. Oh, what's up, Emmett? Yeah, J Scott. Yeah, J Scott's amazing. Oh man, let's see. Hello, Steve. Some tips for recording at the studio? No, not really. I'm not like Mr. Engineer. Yeah, Josh Johnson, just going to check out those drummers. That's great. I love like turning drummers onto other drummers. I love doing that. All those guys are amazing. I mean, Chris Dave is like, whoo. And it's funny because like I wish I'd run into these guys like at Starbucks or something. Like, I mean, they live all over the world and stuff, but I would just make a fool out of myself. I'd be like, Chris Dave. You know, like Jeff Tane Watts. If I saw him at a call, I'd be like, dude, I'd start crying. I'd be like, Jeff Watts, your drumming is so beautiful. You know. He'd be like, whoa. Anyways, I think we're going to call it. Thanks for hanging out. Another stream in the books. We did it. We played drums. We talked about drums. My name is Steve Holmes. We're streaming live from Los Angeles. We're going to do this again. I don't know when. That's the biggest downside to this is I just push the button. I start streaming. I have no schedule. And so I don't know how I can have any expectations of people showing up, really. They just happen to be online when I'm streaming. I tried it one time. I like pre-scheduled a stream and then I started streaming and I left like the laptop microphone on and it sounded horrible. It was a disaster. Oh man. Anyway, have a good weekend. We'll see you guys next time.